I've seen my fair share of horror films in my day. As an avid horror junkie, I've seen most of the classics, some lesser-known films, and more art-style projects that can leave you with more questions than answers. From slashers, gore-fest, and body horror, to psychological slow burns that take their time, no genre is off limits. One year whenever I was in college and really started my deep dive into horror, I wanted to knock out the classics first. I had seen Halloween, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and more, but there is one in particular I'd yet to see for no reason. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. So one night in my apartment, I loaded it up and pressed play. Here it is 5 years later from that night in my apartment, and I still cannot forget what I watched that night. So let's talk about the intensity of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Continue to burn out of control at the huge Texaco refinery near the Texas-Louisiana border. 3 storage units exploded into flames during the night, killing at least 3 workers and injuring a dozen more. Firefighting units from 3 Texas cities continue to battle the Holocaust in an effort to confine 40-foot flames. Smoke from the fire is visible.
Before we begin, I just want to clear something up. This is not a scene-by-scene review of the film. This is not a deep dive into every aspect in detail. This is not me telling you without a shadow of a doubt this is the most intense horror film of all time. This is simply my experience, and I want to break down some of the reasons why I feel this way. First off, the narration and scrolling text in the beginning works on so many levels. It describes the events that took place in the movie in a documentary style that makes things feel real. In the 1970s, it was certainly a lot easier to fool people than it is now. The straight-faced delivery of the lines and the use of the words macabre and mad makes you feel as if the presentation is genuine. It's not pretty either. It feels dirty and wrong, something I will get into later. Just after the text is done scrolling, we get some of the most bizarre but effective sounds I've ever heard. In the background, we hear the news talking about some grave robberies taking place in the area. On top of that, it sounds like we hear the noises of someone breaking into caskets and graves. With the flash of a camera, we get these industrial sound screeches that catch your attention right away. Multiple flashes of the camera, combined with those noises, show us the grotesque, decaying corpses being disturbed. Then, we get the first real sight of one close up. In the Texas heat, we get a zoomed-out look of a corpse wired to a statue or gravestone. You can almost feel the heat as you watch it. You can almost smell the stench that is behind a TV screen. One of the biggest reasons I feel this movie is so intense is what's being shown. You feel as if you are right there in the middle of the summer in the graveyard. The imagery is top tier. Another reason the film is incredibly effective is kind of piggybacking off some of the points I just made. Throughout the movie, the soundtrack blasts in these industrial loud noises, the screeching, loud but subtle droning noises. Sounds from the film are truly unnatural and unnerving. Another part of the sound design are these random pig and farm animal noises, either during a dramatic scene or when Leatherface appears for the first time. You get these squealing noises, and they really help drive home the fact of what type of environment you're in. The filming locations are also quite effective. You're in Texas during the middle of the summer. Temperatures during filming were said to have hit the triple digits. I truly feel the film is a great watch not during October, but also in the summer. The heat, many of the locations are on these very back road, small town type community places. Many of the houses and sets are these dilapidated and rundown areas. We've all been driving in the middle of somewhere before in a rural area, and seeing these places that are very similar to this. It just adds to the realism of the film in a way, but more on this later. Another effective part of this film is the use of animal carcasses, body parts, skin. During many scenes in the film, we often see animals, bones, and what's designed as human skin in this cannibal family's home. Once I got done watching this movie, I legitimately felt like I needed a shower. Again, it's as if you can smell all of this through your screen when watching it. I don't know how many other films I can say this about. It's truly a one-of-a-kind experience that I've yet to see duplicated. Watching this film can take a toll on you. Well, at least it did for me. While there are many scenes that invoke this feeling, none more than the infamous dinner table scene. Leatherface, the hitchhiker, and Grandpa are all set at the dinner table with Sally at the end, along with the cook, and she's gagged up and tied. What follows is this long, drawn-out scene that features howling and laughing from the family, multiple close-ups and camera cuts of Sally's eyes as she begs for her life. It legitimately feels like someone is losing their sanity and truly going insane. The first time I watched it, my jaw actually dropped as I felt too much like I was being brutalized by watching this. The screaming, the yelling, the agony, the decor at the table, it all just leads to watching someone become traumatized. And at the end, while Sally does escape, she doesn't actually win. She sees her family and friends killed, she's tortured beyond belief, and is driven to the brink of insanity. All this as she drives off and watches Leatherface wave his chainsaw around like a maniac and dance in the middle of the road. While all film is subjective, for me, this is one of the most grueling and intense and brutal movies of all time. Yes, I know there are other horror films that push the limits further than this, but you have to look at this through a certain lens. It was the 70s, and stuff like this just seemed like it could maybe happen in real life. We've all driven through a desolate side of town where there's little to nothing going on. The front yard is a mess, the house looks somewhat abandoned, and it makes you wonder, who lives there? While yes, not every part like this in a town holds a cannibalistic family, but there are hints of realism in there. There are crazy people in this world who could do things like this out of nowhere, where no one could hear you scream. Add the fact you can literally smell this movie while you watch it, you can see it rot, you can feel the heat. It's something that I've yet to experience in any other film. This movie is intense. As always, thank you for taking part in a dark discussion.